A 15% fall on a £90,000 house is £13,500. Put £30,000 of your own money in and that's nearly half of it gone, on paper inside a year. And it has happened. UK house prices fell around 19% between 2007 and 2009 and took about 7 years to get back to where they started. So this is the video nobody in property makes. Everything that actually goes wrong said out loud in order with no softening. And then the part that matters far more, because you don't lose money when the price falls, you lose money when you're forced to sell while it's down. Everything I'm about to show you exists to make sure that never happens to you. I'm Kaylee, the Yorkshire Property Sourcer. Every property video you've ever watched has a number in it, going up, ours included. And I understand why. The upside is the reason anybody does this at all. But if you're sitting on £30,000 or £40,000 deciding whether to put it into a house 200 miles away, the honest question in your head isn't how much could I make? It's what happens if this goes wrong. Almost nobody answers that, so we're going to. I'm going to name the 5 things that genuinely lose money in buy-to-let. Not scare stories, the real ones. The ones we plan for on every single deal. And then I'll show you exactly what gets built in on day one so that each of them is survivable. If you're the sort of person who wants to see the downside before the upside, this one is for you. Before we get into it, we're a small business making these ourselves, and our subscribers are the thing that keeps us going. So if this is your kind of content, hit subscribe, that's all we ever ask. Right, here they are. No softening and no reassurance yet. That comes after. Number 1, being forced to sell. Prices fall, and because you borrowed to buy, the fall doesn't land on the whole house, it lands on your deposit. 15% of a £90,000 house is £13,500. If your money in was £30,000, that's nearly half of it. And if you've had to sell at that moment, it stops being a number on a screen and becomes money you actually lost. People who fixed at around 2% in 2021 came back to the market in 23 and found 5.5%. In early 2023, possibly as many as 1 in 3 buy-to-let remortgage applications failed the lender's affordability test. This isn't a scare story. That's what happened to real landlords 3 years ago. Number 3, the costs. Avoid where the house sits empty and the mortgage goes out anyway. A boiler, a gas safety certificate, and the one nobody warned you about, which is the bill that arrives when a good tenancy ends. Number 4, the thing nobody saw coming. Every event that has genuinely wrecked people was not on anybody's list beforehand. That's what made it what it was. Number 5, the people you trust. You're handing money to a broker, a solicitor, a letting agent, and possibly a sourcer. Get that one wrong and the other 4 don't matter. That's the list. That's honestly the whole list. Now let's take every single one of them and look at what gets built in against it from the day the offer goes in. Start with number 1, because it's the big one, and because everything else in this video is really a version of it. Borrowing is what makes property work. £30,000 of your money controls a £90,000 asset. So 5% growth on the house is 15% of your money, roughly 3 times. Here's the honest half that most people skip. It works exactly the same going down. 3 times up, 3 times down. Same mechanism, no difference. So what stops that ending you? Well, historically, UK house prices have recovered from every downturn to date and have risen over the long run in cash terms. That's the pattern. It's not a promise, and I'm not going to dress it up as one. But notice what recovery actually requires. It only helps you if you're still holding when it arrives. That's it. That's the whole thing. You only ever crystallise a loss if you're forced to sell. So the entire job is engineering a position where selling is never forced. 3 things do that. The first is cash flow. The rent has to cover the mortgage with room to spare, so that a bad year is uncomfortable rather than fatal. That's why we lead with income and treat growth as the bonus and not the other way around. The second is a 5-year fix. What a fix actually buys you isn't a rate, it's time. Enough time for a bad market to become an ordinary one before you ever have had to ask a lender for anything. And the third is buying below market value in the first place. That discount isn't a bargain hunt, it's a cushion. It's the reason a fall has something to eat through before it reaches you. Which is why we never overpay. It's a safety rule in this business long before it's a return rule. Get those 3 right and a downturn is something you sit through. Get them wrong and it's something that happens to you. Number 2, and I'm going to be personal about this one because we've lived it. The maths first. £150,000 of interest only, borrowing at 5.5% costs around £688 a month. At 2%, it's a fraction of that. So when thousands of landlords rolled off their 21 fixes into 2023, the cost of holding the same house more than doubled. And we felt it on our own home and on properties we own ourselves. That wasn't something we watched happen to other people, it happened to us. But here's the thing, and it's the reason I can talk about it calmly now. It didn't hurt as much because we'd planned for it from the very start. The rental income was stress tested from day one against rates far higher than we were paying before we bought anything. So when the rates actually arrived, the numbers had already been run at that level. Nothing had to be improvised. And the rental income was already doing a second job at home as well, which was also deliberate and also planned in years before we needed it. That's the countermeasure, and you can apply it yourself on any deal you're ever shown. Don't ask whether the rent covers the mortgage today. Ask whether it covers the mortgage at the worst rate you could realistically end up paying. That's the standard variable rate, the one you roll into if a refinance doesn't land the way you'd hoped. Test the deal against the number before you buy, and that bad outcome becomes a thing you planned for rather than a thing you survived. And I'll say this plainly because it matters. Rate fixes and remortgages are a regulated area, and I'm not a broker. What I'm giving you is the mechanism, not advice. Take the specifics to a regulated mortgage broker who can look at your actual position. We factor all of this in for ourselves, which is precisely why we factor it in for an investor. Number 3, these are the ones that don't make headlines, and they are the ones that actually catch people out. Avoid first. The tenant leaves, the house sits empty, and the mortgage goes out anyway. Everybody knows this can happen, and almost nobody budgets for it. Budget 1 or 2 months of payments from the beginning, and an empty month is a line item you already planned for. It's a cost, not a catastrophe. Then the running costs, the gas safety certificate every year, the insurance, the boiler that picks its moment. Individually, every one of these feels like an ambush across a year. They're entirely predictable. So here's something you can start on Monday, and it's the single most useful thing in this video. Set aside £100 a month per property into a separate account and leave it alone. Don't touch it. Over a year, that quietly absorbs almost everything on that list, and that boiler stops being a crisis and becomes an inconvenience. And now the one that nobody tells you about, which is genuinely counterintuitive. The big bill doesn't arrive when a tenancy goes wrong. It arrives when a tenancy goes right. Think about it. 5 or 6 settled years of somebody living in a house and it needs putting back. Carpets, decoration, the small repairs that build up quietly, and pets, and that number goes up again. A long, happy tenancy is exactly what every investor says they want, and it also is the thing that generates the reinstatement cost. So it gets budgeted far from day 1, not discovered in year 6. And on top of all that, on every deal we present, there's a buffer of around £2,000 sitting in the account from completion date. Not a nice idea, not optional, it's on the document every time. Number 4, and I'm going to be straight with you because this is the one where I can't hand you a neat solution. Everything I've covered so far has a countermeasure because it's a known risk. You can name it so you can plan for it. But the events that have genuinely ruined people historically weren't on anybody's list beforehand. That's what made them what they were. The thing you can name is the thing you've already survived in, your head. So prediction isn't the defense. Nobody has that. Here's what it is. You never build a position that can be destroyed at all. There's a distinction I'd want anybody to take away from this video, and it resolves something that sounds like a contradiction. You can have a high tolerance for risk and absolutely no tolerance for ruin. Those aren't the same appetite, and they're answers to different questions. Risk is a bad year, ruin is not being there for the recovery. So every decision gets run against one question. If the worst realistic outcome landed tomorrow, would I still be standing? And if the answer is no, then the deal is refused no matter how good the upside looks on paper. That's not caution. Caution would be not doing it at all. That's just refusing to be wiped out by anything. Number 5, and this one's completely in your control, which is why I've saved it for last. If you're investing at a distance, you're relying on people, a broker, a solicitor, a letting agent, and possibly somebody sourcing the deal. And I'd rather you know how to check all of them properly, including us. There are 5 things you can verify on any property sourcer in this country, and it takes about 10 minutes. 1, are they a registered company? 2, are they supervised for anti-money laundering purposes? 3, are they a member of a redress scheme? 4, do they hold professional indemnity insurance? And 5, are they registered for data protection? Ask for all 5. Any firm that has them will hand them over without hesitating because it costs them nothing. Any firm that can't produce all 5 is not a firm to hand a deposit to. Run that on us, please do. We'd far rather you checked and then check what they've actually written down, because a promise on a website isn't worth much and a clause in a contract is. I'll give you ours. Our fee is £5,980, and it's written in our terms is a guarantee that we will not present you with a property unless the discount between the price we expect to achieve and the property market value is bigger than that fee in writing, which means there are deals we don't get paid on. So let me leave you with the method rather than the reassurance, because you can use this on anything, including anything we ever show you. 3 questions. 1, what is the worst realistic outcome here? Say it out loud, properly, not the version you'd softened. 2, how likely is it? And answer that with a history, not with a feeling. 3, would I survive it? If the answer to the 3rd question is yes, and the likelihood is low, then the decision's made and you can stop turning it over. If the answer is no, then the deal is wrong. Not the market, not property, not the timing, the deal. That's it. That's the whole discipline. Worst case, you've bought an asset below its value with the rent covering the mortgage, a fix protecting you, and a buffer in the account, and you sit through a difficult few years collecting an income the entire time. Best case, you never need any of it. Either way, you were never going to be forced to sell, and that was always the only thing that mattered. By the way, if you'd like to see what this looks like with real numbers on real towns, there's a free investor pack link below. Actual deals, actual figures, the costs included rather than hidden town by town across the 5 areas we work in. No costs and nobody rings you. And if you want more like this, subscribe. That's what makes the next one reach you. This is Kaylee, the Yorkshire Property Sourcer, helping you invest in property the right way. I'll see you in the next video.